Okay. Yes, I know. I must be filming this video with a potato because it's not in landscape mode. And that's okay with me. I like potatoes. So, I just watched a video that was about the season of isolation and it really spoke to me. Please excuse it. It's snowing, so you're gonna see my hair catching some snow. But I'm on my way to the market to get a few things, and I saw this video that was on the season of isolation, and as I said, it really spoke to me. Cars are passing. So the reason it spoke to me so much is because I have experienced this season of isolation. I'm gonna turn this next corner here because I realize there's a lot of cars all of a sudden. There were none until I turned this video on, and now it's just flooded with cars. I'm gonna turn this next corner. I'm sorry, I'm such a dork. If you watch enough of these videos, you just see that I'm just ridiculous. But back to the season of isolation, this message. I have experienced that, being in a season of isolation. It wasn't like for a day or a week or a month or something. It wasn't even for a year, it was years. In fact, I'm still kind of in it right now. I feel like as though I'm on the tail end, only God knows. But I feel like I'm on the tail end of this isolation period. But in my experience, it kind of just happened all of a sudden. It happened before I even realized it was happening. It was like every single thing in my life started falling apart in bizarre ways. Really bizarre, where it's just to this day, it doesn't even make any sense. People were leaving, people who shouldn't leave, people who promised to never leave, making vows and things like that. Just people were just disappearing without a trace, even when legally you can't do that. Like it was just weird. Certain opportunities were lost, jobs, family members, so many things. Even like I moved into a nice neighborhood. I live in a really nice neighborhood. I mean, it might not look like that right here, but I swear it is. But it's the wrong time for me to show you this vacant lot right here. But I swear it's a nice neighborhood. It's really safe for somebody like me. And I moved into this really nice, safe neighborhood where I could work, with the children that I work with, and even the neighbors, that I live in a house with. God help them and God bless them, bless their heart. It was just straight up demonic activity. It was like the spiritual warfare of like what's in me and what's in them was just clashing, and there was no reason behind it. There wasn't like a scenario where I was just this and that for years and that's why. I didn't do anything. In fact, I keep me and my company, we keep to ourselves and very quiet. So it's just bizarre things. I think that's definitely a good a good sign that you might be entering an isolation period if things like that are happening to you, and it can't be explained. Sorry, I'm getting snow stuck in my hair right now. But things that cannot be explained, and it hurts. Oh gosh, the heartache from some of this stuff. It's so bizarre, and then you try to talk to your friends about it, or family, or whatever, Sometimes you don't have anyone to talk to about it, which is even worse. And you're just wondering what you did wrong, or if you're cursed, or What is it about you and your character that causes all of this, And I think, from what I've learned, it's a good idea to not think that way. Because, if you're walking with God, especially if you're walking with God and you're abiding in His ways and everything, and I say everything very lightly because there's so much more to it, but if you're doing that stuff and you really are trying to do right in life, even if you don't necessarily have God in the way that you could, and all this bizarre stuff is happening to you, I don't think necessarily you should just go and blame yourself and say, it's me, it's me, it's me. Of course, there are things about yourself that always cause for improvement, but when you start having like a Job type situation where just one after another things are coming at you really rough and unexplained, and it's just absolutely bizarre. Absolutely. And you're just getting pang after pang in your heart and your soul about all of this, and it just doesn't stop, and it goes on and on and on. Job is like, forgive me if I've counted or missed a chapter, but it's around 42-ish chapters long. I'm reading in a Bible study this book again, and we're only on chapter 13, and like his suffering is just yikes. And one of the women asked, oh, well, how long does this go on? And so when I looked it up, I think we saw that it was 42. And it's like that in real life. We don't necessarily know how long Job had suffered like this in a season that of isolation in some ways, a season that was agonizing, that he didn't deserve. Clearly he didn't deserve it. There was just something deeper going on behind the scenes. And his friends were blaming him, saying that he must have done some wrong, It's the only way that these things could happen to him is if he did. And that wasn't the case. We saw the conversation between God and the devil where he was allowed to do anything to him but take his life. And of course he didn't want him to take his life because God's going to do something with his life after all this is done, after he passed the test, And which the test was this. Didn't really have to do much after he'd lost everything except hold on to God and trust him in this crazy process. And so that's what's happening, if you're in one of those, or if you know someone who's in one of those. That's kind of the gist of what's happening. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a test, but like a refining of sorts, to gain a relationship, a closer relationship with your Creator. And instead of just looking at life circumstances and going, I'm so unlucky, I'm cursed, or I hate life, or, I've just heard so many things and I've said them. But instead of doing that, what I've learned through these years, and I mean years, of isolation and just losing so much, and it just didn't make any sense, was that God is in this. His hand, his righteous right hand is all through this thing, and he's been really taking care of me. I have to make a testimony at some point, but I'll leave it at this. Even though I'd lost so much, pretty much everything, and it was all during this time period, unexplained to this day, except to say, here we go with the cars again. Oh gosh. Except to say to this day that seems like a kind of distraction there from the enemy or something, because I meant to tell you something important, so hold on, listen, Holy Spirit, please don't let me lose it. Oh gosh. God's hand is all through this, and it's not necessarily a bad thing that these things are being removed, because he's seen everything. He sees everything that goes on in this place. This is his world, his property, his creation. He sees everything that goes on. He sees conversations from these people that you thought really cared and really loved you. He saw the actions that they did. He'll even tell you sometimes in your spirit what's going on. And it can hurt. But it's not him hurting you. It's people and their choices and sin and selfishness. And it's us making choices that weren't the best for us in the first place. Getting involved with that person or having those friends that you knew, they're just not in good activity. Or a job that, you just really shouldn't be in, because not that the job itself was bad, but just the company, the vibe, the energy, the people. It just wasn't for you to stick around, or it was just for you to be there for whatever time period. For me, I work with children, so I was meant to be there in so many different schools. I was meant to be there for them for that period of time, for whatever reason that God wanted me to be there for them. And then it was time to move on, which was hard at first because, oh gosh, I miss so many of them. They're just precious, and I just pray that God just keeps his hand on them and just guide them and their life as they grow, and just in their life for their soul, the whole story that he's got written out for them. So I say all this to say, because of that video that I watched, because of that video about isolation period, there's guys watching me here. Can't imagine what he must be thinking. Who cares? But still, I just find it a hoot, things like this. Excuse me, I just get distracted. And I guess that's the point of all this happening around me. I thought that this would be a good idea to tell you on this walk. And maybe it still is. I hope that in some way, like, the message that I'm sharing is helpful to somebody out there, because you think like, oh God, I'm so alone, or oh God, why did all this happen to me? Even especially those who are just now going through that and they don't understand, or some people who are it's snowing, some people who are walking with God and they don't understand why, because they're walking with God, why are these bad things happening? Shouldn't I be blessed, But I find that when you're really walking with God, especially when you're really pursuing and you made up in your mind, you want to be with him, you want to follow him, you want to learn his ways, because his ways protects us. It isn't to hurt us, it's to keep us out of trouble while we're here. And from the ultimate punishment, if you know what I mean. So if you find yourself, you're following him and something like that happens to you, all this stuff starts falling apart and you're like, I'm following God, like what? All these people around me, so many people are not following God and they're blessed, and I'm following God and I'm losing everything for no reason. It isn't for no reason, I promise. Just like, his law and his ways, it can be challenging at first, even to understand why he has it this way, but it's for your protection, it's for you, to make things better for you. It's just unfortunately being here in this world, being human and with other humans, there's just so much that we do, so much damage and so much sin, that it's almost like God has to undo a lot of that stuff, especially if you're in an isolation period. He's removing all that stuff so that the focus is on you and him and refining yourself, and it can be painful. There can be a lot of lonely nights and confusion even, but that's the time that you should start praying and asking him for help, to understand why this is even happening in the first place. What is it that he wants you to know, or what is it about yourself that you are supposed to fix or work on or learn? And believe me, we all got something, something to learn for sure. I'm hoping that my rambling isn't I'm hoping that it isn't I don't know, gibberish. I hope some of this computes with some of you. It's a really pretty day. Look at this snow. I don't know, can you see it? It's just really snowy and pretty. Not really a lot of people are out over here, so it's a little quieter. But I hope that you were able to gather something from what I just said here to reassure you that if you find yourself in that type of space, this is kind of the answer. This is what's happening, you know. You're under spiritual attack partly, but also it's God too. He's refining you. He's fixing things. You just don't see it yet, and it could take years. It could take a lot of years. And your patience is tried. How much longer, God? Gosh, can't tell you how many times I told him or asked him that. Probably just a few days ago. I did as well. But I'm constantly reminded that his timing is perfect. And just trust him. Really, just like one of those trust fall situations. You need to trust fall into God and his will and his way and his plan for you. Trust fall right into that thing. He won't steer you wrong. I can say that much. Even though his ways aren't our ways and they're higher. And there's a verse on that. There's also a verse on not leaning on our own understanding because he's just beyond us. There was a Bible study that they did where I talked about the tree of knowledge, Genesis chapter 1, and we don't understand as much as we ate from that plant and as physically or technologically advanced or whatever, you know, as we can get. We still don't know much of anything, especially those who really think they know. We just don't know. There's so much that we'll never know. Thank God, because unfortunately the heart of man is just so wicked. I like to call it manager syndrome. When you have the worker bees, you know, you first start a job and there's the worker bees and we're all getting along, we're on the same level, but once one of those worker bees become a manager, in most cases, it's like there's a corruption that happens in that person because of the power that they feel like they've gained. So many people kind of get into that scenario that when they were on the same level, everything was fine, but once they get a taste of power, things get a little weird. The personality changes or whatever. And I don't know. I just think but staying humble is a good idea. Because there is something after the storm. And I want to see what it is. I mean, God's got it in my heart. He's already told me. Even just a couple of weeks ago on a Shabbat, I was like praising him and whatnot and just really enjoying my time with him. And he did let me know something that it really isn't for me. This is not really my fight. The battle is just in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, you know. And it really is about giving him all the glory. Some people say that God doesn't look for that. Yes, he does. And it's the right thing for him to do so because he is the hero. He's the savior. He's the one that makes all of this possible. He's the one that makes even walking right now on this snowy day possible because he wills it. There will come a time that none of this, the presence of God in this place that keeps it so calm and keeps the world turning and the stars in the sky and the sun rising and whatever, the air in our lungs, there's going to come a time where his presence will leave. And whether you believe in God or not, you're going to recognize exactly what presence that was. Don't wait until that time, by the way. Don't wait until then. Geez, that would be absolutely horrific. So I urge you, you know, if you're in a period where things are going wrong, you seek God for sure. Like really seek him. He will help you if you're earnestly doing that. If you're earnestly looking for him, he won't let you down. And if you're already with him, just know that this is partial spiritual attack for sure, but it's not really. God's allowing certain things to happen. Sometimes he'll use that righteous right hand to even remove things. Maybe because you don't remove it. So he must, you know, for your own good. But you got to trust him either way. You got to get into that point where you do trust him and you're not mad. You're not upset. You're not afraid. You're not worried. You're just walking with him. So and just anticipating what's next, like really having faith and really believing that he's working, really believing that he's going to come through and help, and that he is doing that. There's we're walking around and it looks all beautiful and whatnot, little winter wonderland happening here, but there's a spiritual realm all around us, angels walking with me, fighting right now, keeping the demons off me. There's just so much going on, and that's just, as I keep saying, the tip of the iceberg, like there's so much more to it. There's so much more going around us in the spirit realm that we don't know, and that just keeps things into perspective for me, that he's working, that things are happening. Say your prayers and shift things around too, because you can take part in the battle, and that way, trusting God and praying, and not just praying for things that you want, like praising him too and thanking him for this air that I'm breathing in, that I'm here today, that God thought like me, I should exist right now, that I deserve to exist, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. God thinks, the creator of this whole thing said I should exist. So who cares what anybody else thinks? So I hope this message means something to somebody. I've been running on it. I originally wanted to do like 5 minutes or something. I'm looking at this thing up here and it's like 21 minutes. So I'm gonna chill out and like get to this grocery store, and I just pray like that God opens your eyes, to the truth of the matter of what an isolation period or a period of just loss, of just losing things could mean. Some things go so much deeper, that we just don't see. And the biggest part that you can do is just stay with God, stay praying to him, praising him, thanking him. Put in your requests and expect them, especially if they're in his will. And how do you know if it's in his will? You got to read his word to find out what his promises is, to get to know who he is. If you don't know him, that book tells you everything you need to know, even about yourself. So I'll put a shout out. I'm doing a Bible study right now. I'm reading the Message in King James. I might throw one more version in there that I'm trying to do daily until God tells me to stop. So I pray that that this meant something to somebody out there, and that it's reassuring you that if you're following God and things are going crazy, just stick with him. It's okay. Trust him in this process and stay. Abide in him and he will abide in you. And don't lean on your own understanding. It's okay. Just know that there is a being that loves you, that's in control of this whole thing. Even if you never recognized him, he still does. He's still all those things and more. But if you're able to recognize it, that's even better. Because then, that's when you really start to see, the scales are removed and you're able to act accordingly and really walk in his will. I guess that's it for now. It's starting to get really crazy out here. I'm going to go to this market right now and pick up a few things, because there's supposed to be a little bit of a winter storm. I don't really know. This is I'm not really sure. The weather's been strange. I don't even know if this is what should be happening in this area. So it's just been a really weird time in the world in general. But stay prayed up, and I just pray many, 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 many blessings over you and your situation, because I know, and I pray that you stay with God, because I know that if you do, everything's going to be all right, and it is already, even in the storm, it is. I'm thinking of a verse I just heard earlier today, and I wish that I could remember it. It went something like, I can't even really paraphrase it, but the gist of it was, despite everything that's happening around me and, the chaos, I'm going to trust in my God. I have to find it and put it in another video, because I think it's really important to eventually at some point get to that level of faith in him. He doesn't fail you. He will never, especially if you're abiding in him, especially if you're walking in his ways and you never give up in seeking him. which includes reading his word and praying and praising, looking for his direction and being obedient when you get your answers, Trust the process. It can be hard and you can miss people, but it's okay. It's going to be okay. There's a reason why he did that. There's a reason why he allowed it. And you just got to trust him. He loves you so much. He loves me, And I can't say it enough. I feel absolutely priceless because of him. Despite how other people tried to make me feel. I feel like royalty, So that's another thing that the isolation period can do. It can really change your perspective about yourself, despite what the world tried to do, despite what your own sins tried to do. God can change all of that and tell you the truth. And it's beautiful. So that's it for now. It's 26 minutes now. Yikes. I'm going to go get myself something. I'm not sure yet. Some stuff from the grocery store. So I pray that many, many blessings over you once again. And I just also pray that you don't give up. Don't give up. Stay with God. It'll be the best decision you ever made. Trust me on this. Because I've got a real testimony to give at some point. So anyway, God bless you. I love you. Bye.